doing it. You supposed to be happy you sitting there with Kid L. Why you mad?
The Kid L podcast.
Popping. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was a rapper. I used to rap. I was a hip hop head. Are we starting?
Oh yeah, we're rolling. Nick,
Okay,
you get that
cool.
fan real quick.
I was a real hip hop head back in the day, like Backpack. So, you know, there was a lot of rappers in Detroit back then, but motherfuckers didn't know them.
Yeah.
So now I think this shit is like unbelievable. Like how many known rappers we got in Detroit is crazy.
Well, social media broke open everything for everybody. In 2012 and 2013, everybody
Right.
got hip to it, and they started utilizing it to promote themselves, and then everybody got hip to the scene, you know what I
Right.
mean? Or else
Yeah.
it never really would have happened, right?
Yeah.
Even your social media, you had a social media before the one you have now, right?
Yeah, right. Hell yeah. That's a story. Fucking Aries Spears.
Oh, one of my favorite comedians of all time.
Man, this motherfucker stole my joke.
No.
I'll tell you the whole story. I'm hosting the Punchline. You know, I used to host the Punchline and shit. And he come down. It's around Aretha Franklin when she passed away. So I'm on stage, and so I had this thing where, because the Punchline used to have like all the national acts, all the black national acts, from like everybody you can imagine. You know what I'm saying? Corey Holcomb, DC Young Fly, fucking Carlos Miller. The whole 85 South Boys, fucking. Eddie Griffin, just every fucking body you can imagine. Bruce, every fucking body. And my thing was I used to try to get on stage and fucking destroy it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I used to try to destroy it every time, I learned later that you wasn't supposed to do that, but fuck that shit, like, shit.
What do you mean? Because your placement in the act, so you make sure that the headliner doesn't...
Some headliners will talk to you before the show, like, don't do this, only do your material, don't do, like, the shit like that. They don't want you to fucking make their job harder.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Make their job harder.
Because they have to follow up with you. It's like save the best for last, and then you're like making it way funnier. It's a harder job for them.
And then they want to get booked by the club again, and then they want to keep their fans, you know what I'm saying? People look at them as being legendary, and then, I come around and shit, and they be like, well, this motherfucker hot. So that shit used to happen a lot. So there's one particular show that Aries Spears was on. I'm ripping this bitch. I'm going crazy. And I called him up, and they still laughing at the shit I'm saying. So he couldn't follow me. Like the first 10 minutes of that shit, he couldn't follow me. He just had to piggyback on the shit that I was saying, right? So he piggybacked on the shit that I was saying, then he got him, right? So I'm driving him back to his hotel. Like I'm they asked me to transport him and shit. So we sitting in my car. And he turns to look at me. He say, man, Richard Pryor is your favorite comedian, ain't he? I was like, yeah, how you know? He's like, you remind me of Richard Pryor. Now, that's crazy. That's like a motherfucker telling you remind him of MJ, right? Like Michael Jordan or some shit. Time, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, wow, damn, Eric. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, okay, I take it. He was like, that joke you said. So I had this joke and shit. I do it briefly, what I was talking about, like the premise and shit. So the opioids was popping real hard, you know what I mean? And everybody was comparing it to the crack epidemic, and how the government was taking the opioid epidemic way more serious than the crack epidemic. And at that time, Ohio and shit was like the fucking hot spot for this shit. And in my joke, I say, well, that's because Ohio is like Africa for white people, So he say, yeah, that joke, is funny in the motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? I like it. When a national act compliment you on your joke, they about to take your shit. You know what I'm saying? So later on, I see him on the Drink Champs. This motherfucker got a shirt that say, Idaho, white people's Africa. Wow. I'm like, wow. Then I see him on Vlad TV. He got the same fucking shirt on. Damn. Right? And the ironic part is, on Drink Champs, they asking him and shit about comedians writing for other comedians and shit like that. And he was saying like, yeah, it ain't no problem with that, but all my shit is original. I write all my shit while wearing the shirt with my shit on it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I answered your question.
No. I mean, Aries Spears, man. I've been watching him since he was in the movie.
I like him though, but that was fucked up. Oh, my IG account. Yeah, so I
mean, we can't just go over the Aries Spears thing real quick, but it does suck that happened. That happened. I mean, if obviously there's always two sides to a story, but I mean, hearing you say it, it's unfortunate. Like, you got to look at the history of comedy acts being stolen. Carlos Mencia, Joe Rogan, all that shit. fucking Bill Cosby was being ripped off and ripping off too. So it's kind of crazy to watch that happening. But for it to happen to an underground artist, were you underground at that time? Were you considered?
I'm shit, technically still underground. You know, if you think about it, you know, technically I'm still underground.
So how does that lead to the Instagram?
So I'm seeing all this shit, and he didn't have an Instagram page, but his opening act did. I cannot remember his name. It was a Jewish guy he rolled with and shit. So every time I see him with the shirt, I'm like, damn, you still in my shit, you know, you still whatever. So he did a birthday show, and he had the shirt on. I think it was his birthday. He did a birthday show, and they had it on Instagram and shit like that. And I DM'd his opening act or whatever, like, you know, damn, he's still wearing my shirt. He's still, you know, going around saying my joke and shit, whoop, whoop. And his opening act tried to defend him. Then right after that, my fucking page was flagged. I couldn't get through, couldn't get in it or none of that shit. And I'm like, you know, I'm putting two and two together. I don't know. He might have not had shit to do with it, but, you know, my page was mighty fine until I started inquiring about that.
How many followers did you have?
Joke. I was working on 11,000.
God damn.
And that was, right, without sketches.
Yeah, and at the time where you're still building it, right?
Right. That was without sketches. That was without a viral moment. That was just collecting them bitches as we go.
That's just from literally people knowing who you are because you're always showing up to sets. You're not even creating content to get the whole nation on you. It's just literally locally, right?
Right.
Which is insane.
Every show, like, follow me on Instagram.
You know, he is literally, I would say, top 10 of my favorite comedians of all time. Yeah, I watched him since he was in the past with John Leguizamo, and I just followed his career ever since then. Phenomenal, hilarious. I'm
still a fan of him.
Touches on everything, but it does suck to hear that. You know what I'm saying? And comedians have been going crazy about their jokes being stolen. I get DMs all the time of people showing me evidence of jokes, music, everything being stolen, and it's very unfortunate. Do you think sometimes comedians hear stuff and they don't even realize they're stealing it? Or do you think it's intentional? Like they're really paying attention to the fact that I'm going to take this guy's joke because I can get away with it.
So, all right.
Can you bring that mic a little closer?
All right. So you got different types of comedians and shit, right? So you got comedians that's really want to be comedians. You know what I mean? They look at this shit like, yeah, you know, I want to create a joke. I want to deliver the joke. And I want to see, you know, the effect of it on the audience. You know, they really get something from it. Then you got people that really just want to be popular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's still a social scene. You know what I mean? And being on stage, you still get something from the audience, whether you take it serious or not. So I think as that person progresses in their career, writing jokes get hard, or keeping up with what they started is hard, and then they blatantly start stealing fucking jokes.
It's a very big possibility.
Like, you know what I mean? Like certain shit is just like, I hear the whole, you may be thinking alike or whatever, but if a comedian say that, he the one stealing.
Right. Well,
you know what I'm saying? Because I purposely try to think of shit that's like not okay. I might talk about this white shoe. Okay, if you talk about the white shoe, that's one thing. But the shit I put with the white shoe, you can't put with the white shoe. And if you do, you weren't thinking like that.
What do you think about? Do you think Carlos Mencia was straight up stealing? Like when you look at his history with Bill Cosby jokes, and when you look at all the stuff he did with like Bobby Lee. And he was just literally, you could go back to footage and seeing him kind of mimic the same exact acts. Like the Bill Cosby story about, you know, the son who's a football player and he makes it all the way to the top and then he thinks his mom. That was like a straight up like verbatim almost.
So Mencia thought he was slick because social media and like that bank of information wasn't necessarily accessible to everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? Comedians might have known he stole, but the audience didn't know because, like I said, that bank, you know, YouTube wasn't popping like that, none of that shit. So I think he was trying to be slick with it, trying to take intricate jokes that people didn't remember from Bill Cosby or some shit, like not his trademark jokes, but something that was like in there on a secret special or some shit. Yeah, people do that. How often did you ever find a comedian took your bet? Was that like one of the only times, or has it happened multiple times? Few times.
No.
Yeah, I say Probably about 4 or 5, but they slick with it sometimes. They might not take your shit verbatim. Out of town person might take your shit verbatim, but
I think I had like Jackpot the Juice on here, and he was talking about how
that's my guy.
They would steal his skit ideas and translate them into comedy stand-ups.
Right.
And stand-ups would get their ideas stolen by social media influencers too. So it's
Right.
kind of like everybody's taking from everybody.
Right.
You're not on stage, so nobody's going to hear you say this in a stage format, and you're not on social media like that, so they're not going to see the skit like the way you're doing
Right.
it. It sucks, man, right?
Yeah, everybody going for broke. But, I got philosophies and shit. You know what I mean? And I like expressing myself. So, I can't take nobody's joke because I wouldn't even deliver it right. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't even deliver it with conviction.
Right. The ultimate integrity within you doesn't allow you to, right? It wouldn't be able to translate because it's not yours.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I'm like from the backpacks generation of hip hop where everything was original.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like everything was original. How you rap, the shit you said, like everything, even your name.
I think Kevin Hart was accused of stealing jokes too. I think possibly Cat Williams was making accusations, and Kevin Hart was like saying like I couldn't have stolen those because those are real life stories from my life.
Right.
But you can see how people can twist even their own real life stories and form it with somebody else's jokes somehow. I want to get into the story of Faygo Red though, man. I want to go back. You were born on Belle Isle?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't? Is that all a lie? What's that?
No,
all?
I wasn't. That was just something I put on there for the Detroit people. No, I'm from 7 Mile.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm from 7 Mile.
I'll talk about your upbringing a little bit, man. What was it like growing up in Detroit for you?
Shit, it was pretty cool. I had both my parents. I grew up on 7 Mile in between Southfield and Evergreen. So,
can you get into that mic a little bit more? You can just pull it if you need to.
Yeah, so, I grew up on 7 Mile in between Southfield and Evergreen. So, whatever was going on around there, I seen it. It wasn't a lot and shit, but, it was enough. I don't know. I might be, I got friends from the suburb, and the shit that I don't think is a lot, they think is a lot. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't feel no pressure from the neighborhood and no shit like that.
That's cool. When did you feel like entertainment was your go-to?
Man, I never really wanted to be a entertainer. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to be a bunch of shit. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be freedom fighter, on the Malcolm X tip. You know what I mean? But I was just funny. I wasn't a class comedian. You know what I mean? Cracking jokes and shit. So I kind of ran from the stand-up comedy. Everybody was telling me I should do stand-up comedy and shit like that, but I kind of ran from it because in my neighborhood I didn't want to be known as like the funny guy. I thought, you know what I mean, I didn't want to get robbed at the gas station or some shit like, he the funny guy, you can get him. But I don't know, that shit just ended up happening. It's a comedian named D. Jones I grew up with, and he decided to do a sketch comedy thing, and asked me if I wanted to do it, and we did it, and that shit kind of blew up in the city. You know what I mean? That's around 2007. That shit kind of blew up in the city, and we was a hit. But the guy that was producing it, King Ray, he decided to stop doing it for whatever reason. I don't know. He stopped doing it, but he was managing the TV Lounge, and he started a comedy night there, and that's where comedian CP got popping. He was hosting it and shit. So I went down there and went on stage, and the first time I went on stage, I killed it.
Wow.
So I caught the bug. So I was doing good my first 6 or 7 times on stage, and then I bombed, and I was like, shit. But that's how I knew I wanted to do it, because I still wanted to get back on stage. Bombing is rough, man. That's why I say comedians are, something is wrong with comedians, because to endure that shit and still want to get back on stage, like, shit, you something wrong with you.
Thick skin, huh?
It's different than thick skin.
What is it?
I don't know. You standing in front of the audience, and you putting yourself there to be judged, and black audiences are more harsh, and Detroit audiences are harsher than average black audience. And to bomb, and when you bomb, they look at you like you ain't shit. And then to go back on there, I don't know. Maybe you might be missing something from when you was younger, like some kind of fucking, I don't know, some kind of attention or some shit you might have been missing, or I don't know. I got to sit down with a psychiatrist to figure this shit out, because I don't understand why bombing didn't run me away from this. You know what I mean? So, because we literally got to learn how to do comedy during showtime.
Especially when you start off hot, right? And then it's all like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't have this as figured out as I do. Right. So continuing from that point, when did you find your momentum to actually find your pocket in comedy?
I had an idea of what I wanted to do when I came in. Like I started when I was 30. Like, you know what I'm saying? So before that, I just thought I was funny as hell. You know what I mean? I used to love stand-up comedy. I used to watch anything stand-up comedy I used to watch. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So when I actually started doing stand-up comedy, I kind of knew what kind of comedian that I wanted to be. Raw, not ginger when it came to shit. You know what I mean? Because when I first started, people used to count my cuss words. I used to get off stage, comedians would be like, yeah, you cuss 68 times. You know, everybody wanted to be clean and shit. But I didn't want to be clean, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
At that time, it was easier to sell yourself if you were a clean comedian.
I think what it was. Yeah, I think when I started, everybody in Detroit was preparing themselves to be on TV. Yeah. You know, in case another Comic View came around or something like that. So I think that's what it was. And then I came in like, shit.
Well, if you're talking about 2000s to 2010 even-ish area, right. Everybody was worried about getting on sitcoms and everybody was worried about getting on late night TV. Yeah. Which sitcoms was really big banger, but then late night TV wasn't that big of a deal after a while. Yeah. For whatever reason, it didn't take off. Like it didn't take off,
yeah. Like and then we had like little, people were still trying to create another Comic View too. So we had other shows that was popping up on like Bounce TV. I think it was You Got Jokes or Who Got Jokes. I think that was there, you know what I mean? So it was a bunch of different shows trying to pop up that didn't take off that, you know, comedians was trying to prepare for and stuff like that, you know, and then all the money then was in the church sets. Really? Yeah, the church sets, you know, because when I first started in 2010, a lot of people in the city didn't even know Detroit still had a comedy scene. You know what I'm saying? You know, you would have your few people, but those were the diehard stand-up comedy fans, and it wasn't a lot. You know what I mean? So trying to get really paid off of just, you know, regular raw comedy, I don't think the money was there. You know what I mean? I used to, when I first started, I was rolling with a few comedians, I think Mike Larry, and he was getting a lot of his money through the churches. You know what I'm saying? They was paying. Those are the ones that had the budget and shit. Right. You know,
so. I think Mike Ridley's is one of the ones that stood the test of time as far as being a comedy landmark in Michigan, right? And there was like a few others, but that was the only one that I feel like stood the test of time, right?
Yeah, they stood.
And Detroit itself, what was the comedy scene like? What was the community like as far as that time is concerned? We're talking about 2010-ish, right?
Right, 2010-ish. So it was, for me, coming in as a freshman, to me it was organic. It was fun. After every show, we all gathered in the front. You know what I mean? Or during the show, we gathered in the front. We just roasted each other. You know, I don't know if you've seen CP on All Def Digital with the Roast Me. Yeah. We be out there, all of us be snapping. You know what I mean? He'd be the main one and shit. You know what I mean? So, you know, it was a lot of camaraderie when we first started. You know, and then, you know, things, you know, motherfuckers started getting their name out here and people start feeling themselves and shit start acting, you know, shit be different, you know, but.
The scarcity, right? It's because it's so difficult to find success in it. Everybody's like, if you found it, run with it. And it's hard to take people with you a little bit. But at the same time, like if you look at the most successful comedians in like LA and New York and stuff like that, they figured out how to bring their friends up with them. And that.
I wasn't even talking about those.
Oh, what are you talking about?
No. We all started getting a little name, you know what I mean? Because the comedy scene got bigger, you know what I mean? And people started smelling themselves. I ain't even talking about the ones that went to Cali. Oh, okay. They was cool, you know? But that's just how it is. You know, you get a little name, you start going to the grocery store and motherfuckers start recognizing you and shit with your kids, you know what I mean? You start, you know. Yeah. You know.
And you were established, you were building your name and you're getting out fast, you're like on fire, right? Talk about some of the interesting experiences that you had when you were really finding your rhythm.
Shit. Hosting the Punchline. Yeah. You know, that shit was amazing. I hosted the Punchline from like 2017 to 2020 when the pandemic came and pretty much shut it down and shit. But that whole experience was crazy. The interaction with the different comedians like Shuckey Duckey. I remember Shuckey Duckey, we saved his career. Uh-huh. Because I don't know if you ever heard of Shuckey Duckey, but he'd be like, Shuckey Duckey, quack, quack. So Chris Rock gave him a lot of hell for, I guess, not having jokes and just saying Shuckey Duckey, quack, quack. You know what I'm saying? But the people love that shit. You know what I'm saying? You know, he'll come on there like Shuckey Duckey, quack, quack. You know, that type of shit. But people loved it. But Chris Rock made a joke about him. I think he said, Shuckey Duckey needs some jokey jokes or some shit like that. And that fucked his career up. And he said it fucked his head up. You know, it almost destroyed, it really pretty much destroyed him as a comedian. So when they booked him at the Punchline, and let me say this, when they booked him at the Punchline, by that time we was running for a minute, he had the biggest turnout to that date. You know what I mean? With all the big names that we had, Shuckey Duckey at that point had the biggest turnout for people, right? So they all want to see the Shuckey Duckey shit. So he go in there and he do his whole show. He bombing like a motherfucker. People looking at him and shit. Shit is real cringy. And he come outside and we like, hey man, why you didn't even say the Shuckey Duckey shit. He like, yeah man, I'm trying to show him I got jokes and do something else. I was working on some new shit. I'm like, man, is you crazy? I'm like, bro, they came here to see the Shuckey Duckey. He like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, we love the Shuckey Duckey. He like, do you really? I'm like, you didn't know this shit? I'm like, Chris Rock got in your head like that where you didn't know? He was like, no, I didn't know. The very next show, because, we did 5 that week, 2 a day. So that was the first show Friday he fucked up. The second show, he went in there, Shuckey Duckey, quack, quack, and blew the rest of the weekend away. Yeah. Now I look at him and he's booked like a motherfucker. Shuckey Duckey and his ass off.
It goes back to the golden rule of just being funny.
Yeah.
Right? When you overthink things and you're trying to outline everything, it's like, what are people coming to see? They want to laugh.
Right.
And if you try to do something that's outside of your realm, it's not going to always work out.
Right.
So when you witnessed that, first of all, Chris Rock tapping into the scene like that, was he in the audience at one time and seen it? Did he see it online?
Shuckey Duckey is a national. Shuckey Duckey was on Def Comedy Jam.
Okay.
Right. Shuckey Duckey is a national touring comedian. You know what I'm saying? So Shuckey Duckey had a name. Shuckey Duckey had a good run from the Def Comedy Jam shit. You know what I'm saying? I guess Chris was judging. Chris used to judge the shit out of the Def Comedy Jam comedians. You know what I mean? He used to always make fun of the Def Comedy Jam comedians and shit. And Chris Rock had the Chris Rock show.
Yeah.
So I think he said it on the Chris Rock show. Or did he say it when he hosted Def Comedy Jam one time? But yeah, Shuckey Duckey not a local Detroit. Nah, he's a national act.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then he came to the Punchline, you know what I'm saying, and fucking up, trying to be a different comedian and shit. And the audience was just looking at him like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, where's the Shuckey Duckey shit? And then he did Shuckey Duckey and blew it up. And I like to say I saved his motherfucking career.
Well, look at like Andrew Dice Clay, right? Like he had the Hickory Dickory Dock and all that shit, right? And at the end of the day, that's a lot of people come in there for those little kind of baby rhythms or whatever the fuck.
And see, with Andrew Dice Clay, that Andrew Dice Clay character was just a small part of his whole act.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like his first act, when he used to open up for Rodney Dangerfield, he had a whole fucking act. And that whole, because he's Jewish, but that whole Italian guy type deal, that was a small part. And then they was like, yo, you need to run with that shit. Like, fuck everything else you was saying. Put a leather jacket on, take a comb, start doing that shit, and then, that was his Shuckey Duckey.
What did you find was working for you as a comedian at that time? Like, were you still, your intent was to keep it raw?
Honesty.
Yeah.
When I say raw, I mean, that shit sound cliche, but honesty though.
Right.
Honesty. To me, that's gangster, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, so on every subject matter, just be honest. Say shit that people won't say. And I don't deliberately try to say shit that people won't say. That's just my personality. So I'm just staying true to myself. But shit, honesty.
Were you catering to Detroit and what you knew was relevant to Detroit, or were you thinking national when you were, as a comedian, like, no, I'm touching on everything here?
So it was kind of both before I knew the game. You know what I mean? Like, when I first started, I touched on a lot of national shit. When I say national, I mean things that people can relate to nationally and shit, But then I would, but I wasn't doing it on purpose, trying to be broad. You know what I mean? This was just shit I was talking about. Then I would talk about a few Detroit things, like the Detroit Zoo and the grass and shit like that. You know what I mean?
You had a problem with the Detroit Zoo?
Yeah, because there wasn't no animals in that bitch.
I swear, I just went there and there was no animals.
Yeah,
I seen $80.
I seen a deer and a pit bull in the same fucking cage one time, and I thought the shit was closed, but they had an attendant at the fucking Belle Isle Zoo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It used to be a time where people used to drop their dogs off on Belle Isle. They used to drop their dogs off on Belle Isle. They wouldn't take too many. They just dropped them bitches off on Belle Isle, and they started fighting the fucking deer. Like, they started packing up, and the deer started packing up, And then that shit made the deer aggressive. So the deers used to fucking run up on your cars and be jumping at you and all types of shit. The fucking stray dogs made the deer aggressive. But then when I seen the deer and the pit bull in the same cage at the fucking Bilal Zoo, I was like, you know, came a long way. Look at this shit. This is race relations.
So you're naturally going broad scale just because your mind's on that level.
Yeah, I was just
But you knew you're from the city, so at the
Right.
same time you can incorporate those jokes at the same time.
Right. You know, like I might talk about my license, not having a license or some shit, or I might talking about guys getting caught trying to cheat. You know what I mean? Like everybody, you know, women accuse guys of cheating all the time, but women gotta actually like you for you to be able to cheat. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, you talk about that shit, that's national. But, you know, then like I say, I talk about the grass, how high the grass is, and you know, cutting the grass in Detroit got to be the worst fucking job because you don't know what the fuck you're going to find in that grass. You know what I mean? Bodies, family, pianos, all types of shit. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
It's a fucking interesting take for sure, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like you really came up with a crowd of people that were supportive. I know Coco talked about you before. I know, like I said, T-Barb talked about you a lot.
That's my girl, yeah.
Josh Adams, and they spoke highly of you. And I did some research, and it was unfortunate to see your social media get taken away and everything, but also a lot of history is gone, right, in social media, and a lot of things that you've accomplished and things that you've done.
I know, that's crazy. Yeah. So a lot of the pictures of the people that I, performed with at the Punchline, I was just posting them bitches on Instagram. You know what I mean? And I was in my old phone, but
who's some people you got to work with on the mainstream and the underground level?
Shit.
Did Kevin Hart ever hit you up?
Kevin Hart never hit me up, but I worked with his wife.
Oh, cool.
His ex-wife. That's one who caught, well, I ain't gonna say that on the air. But shit, Eddie Griffin, Lunel, Bruce, Gerald Kelly, Tony Rock, Jordan Rock, and that his name, Jordan, his littlest brother. Dominique, Corey Holcomb, DC Young Fly a few times. I was the first one to bring DC Young Fly to Michigan.
Really?
Yeah. This was right before the movie came out. We brought him to Lansing. We brought him to Lansing and shit. And right before the movie This Christmas came out, we was able to get him for $2,000. You know what I mean? I seen him on. I used to be on Instagram a lot, so I seen him roasting and shit on Instagram, and I was like, man, we should get this guy. Like, fuck it, like, he funny as shit. People love him and shit. I know people know him because that's when they was saying, bring that ass here, boy. That's when everybody was saying that shit. I was like, let's bring him up. So we got him and shit about 3 months out, and then This Christmas had dropped, the movie This Christmas, and when he came up here and shit, he was like, boy, y'all lucky than a motherfucker. Y'all caught me before I blew up and shit, because my price ain't even this, but since I'm a real one, I'm going to still do it. And he was. Every time I met DC, he was a real one and shit. But that was his first time in Michigan and shit. We got him up to Lansing for $2,000. You can't get him for no fucking $2,000 no more.
Yeah, you miss that price sometimes, right?
Yeah. What's old girl name? The one that's dating Cam Newton. I can't think of her name right now. Fuck, she fine as shit.
She's a comedian?
She a comedian, yeah. What the fuck is her name? I can't, because she do different characters. Her set was kind of cold because she came out as her regular self and then went in the back and came out as a character and did another 30 minutes as the character. Yeah. I can't think of that fucking girl name, but the audience know the comedian that Cam Newton got pregnant right now, because I think she got his baby or some shit. She pregnant by her fine ass.
What do you think of the state right now of the comedian scene? Mike Epps opened up with one mic, and I'm not seeing too much footage, but I know it's like kind of building a little hotspot over there too. Punchline's doing well. You got Trixie's and all these clubs trying to make it happen. Kind of talk about where the state is of the Detroit comedy scene.
Detroit comedy scene, I think Detroit comedy scene, I think, is popping like the Detroit rap scene, but we're not getting like the big national exposure, but everybody nationally know us. We getting along. We fuck with each other. You know, we got a lot of the.
I was at a Cat Williams concert.
Uh-huh.
I go to any major comedian that comes here. I usually pull up, and I was really disappointed in the opening acts because none of them were from Detroit.
Yeah,
and none of them and nobody laughed at anything. So this is a crazy story. There was this one comedian that came on telling jokes, and then everybody was laughing, right? So I'm like sitting there, I'm like, these are the worst jokes I've ever seen in my life. But I'm sitting there, I'm watching this act, and I'm hearing laughing and everything. I was like, how do you guys find this funny? So then the big punchline comes, and then everybody's dying laughing. So I turn around, and there was nobody laughing. So I'm like, what the fuck's happening right now? I was like, am I losing my mind? And then I realized the laughing was coming off of the speakers.
Get the fuck out of here.
So I'm sitting there, I'm like, how? And then I realized like this lady had literally put her laugh tracks over the speakers to make people, so whoever filmed her on social media would make it seem like she was killing it. And I'm like, this is crazy. You can't do that.
I've never heard that shit before.
Yeah, there was also
I've never heard
there
that.
was a girl rapping too that did the same exact thing. I think her name's like Superwoman or something. She did the same exact thing. She came out, was rapping, and the audience was going crazy, and then it was just all over the tracks. It wasn't even real. I was like, how the fuck is this legal?
Yo, how the fuck is it legal?
Right.
That's crazy. I've never heard that shit. Now that's come on. Now you a horrible fucking comedian if you manufacturing the laughs live.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you a piece of shit. you fucking the headliner. That's what that is.
But it just tripped me out that I was like, why don't you guys just get Detroit comedians? They relate with these guys.
So this is what it is. And this is my opinion, but I found it to be true. Detroit local scene is the best group of local comedians nationwide. You know what I mean? When we go out of town and we do shows in other cities, we destroy that bitch and they look at us like, who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? A lot of that comes from the audience that groomed us in Detroit, because we come from the audience. Like when we do comedy, we don't create personas. We are the regular people that come from out the audience and then do this shit. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, you have people like Kool-Aid. You know, Kool-Aid ran a tight ship when it came to indirectly developing comedians. You know, he didn't put you in the spot you didn't deserve. You know what I mean? And you wasn't doing shit unless you was at a Kool-Aid spot, at the Gaslight Lounge or Baker's. You know what I'm saying? You wasn't doing shit. Like that was your graduation point. You know what I mean? That's what you wanted to hit. You wanted to go to Kool-Aid's open mic and he slides you $7 after you get the fuck off stage. Fuck the $7. The fact that he decided to slide you some money, the big dog was looking at you. Right. You know what I mean? So with that, we go to our high. Anywhere in the Midwest, we fucking destroy. You know what I'm saying? Promoters will book comedians to sick them on their audience. Like, yeah, you fucked up our other comedians, but we got some people from Detroit coming. You know what I mean? So yeah, we go out to California and shit. We fuck them up. Texas, we fuck them up.
How did you guys adapt to that? Was it because they're seeing a whole new perspective of personality, something that they're not?
I think it's a culture shock when we go to these different cities. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a flavor that they don't let Detroit out the bag. So a lot of us are national acts locally. We don't know we national acts, quote unquote. You know, I'm just speaking for, the people. But when we go out of town, they let us know, like, yo, you the coldest motherfucker. That's why when I hosted the Punchline, I tried to go ape shit to gauge myself. And my biggest compliment was the customers walking out saying, you was funnier than a headliner. I love that shit. I lived for that. You know what I'm saying? You know, so.
Well, the crazy thing that's happening because of social media is that a popular social media figure can go headline a show that isn't prepared to actually do stand-up. So they're going to get booked to headline because they're going to bring the crowd in, right?
Right.
They're going to sell all the tickets. They have 100,000 followers. They're going to sell 300 tickets automatically, right? And then the actual funny guys are kind of sitting there like, all right, but we're going to make the show actually funny.
Right.
You know, that's kind of what's happening, right? That's the little dilemma that's happening.
Yeah. So with that, there are different business practices that are more mind-blowing than that. Like, certain shit you got to get used to in this entertainment game. You know what I mean? As a vet, like, as I get older, I understand this type of shit. You know what I'm saying? You got promoters that's trying to make their money back.
Yeah.
But my biggest problem with the promoters are they don't do their due diligence. They don't do their due diligence when it comes to throwing a show. Like, if you throwing a show, be a fan of the comedians. Just don't pick everybody from the social. Like,
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Don't pick everybody. Like, mix that shit up. You know what I mean? We got some hot shit, but, you know, they trying to sell their tickets. So, you know, kind of understand that. You know,
Well, there's
I mean,
like no holding the line. It's kind of just like book it out, but it's not really about who's the funniest, but just book it out. We need to sell tickets.
Right.
Or else they die, right? Like they don't, because there's not really a hub of entertainment comedians coming in and out of Detroit like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like for them, well, we don't have enough talent and to
they
sustain.
don't know.
They don't know that is what you're saying.
They don't know.
Okay.
They don't know, you know. But see, that's one of them things though. But see, that's some with the Detroit state of mind that I have, that's one reason why I can't get all the way upset with not being chose over a Instagram comedian when a lot of them, you know, come to us for advice, because the Detroit state of mind is that's that promoter shit. That's not your shit. If you want to be on the show, figure out how to throw your own shit. Like, that's the Detroit state of mind. So I can't sit there and be like, damn, he chose him over me. That's his shit. He decided to run his shit like that, where he wanted some Instagram comedians. You know what I'm saying? I can't get upset. You know what I'm saying? I can't get mad at him, because I would love to fucking do one skit and then perform at the Fox. Like, I'll be, you know, and I'll be mad at anybody that tried to take that shit from me. So, you know, I don't judge that. You know what I mean? If I really feel some kind of way or something like that, just start throwing my own shit, because that's the Detroit state of mind. You know what I'm saying? We do our own shit. You know what I mean? I mean that's great to a fault. You know what I mean? Like, it's great because you get to run your own shit, but then it's at a fault because nobody kind of works together. They all running their own shit. You know what I'm saying?
So the solution to all of it is to not blame the promoters, but to just go start your own show, basically.
Yeah, I mean, because that's like getting mad at Netflix because they don't want to give you $100,000. That's they shit. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's not a government sanctioned platform. That's they shit. You know what I'm saying? Do your shit. You know, especially in this internet day and age, you really do your own shit.
Yeah, I mean, I used to work at. I mean, I didn't work there, but I was filming for a while at Detroit Comedy Underground. Mike Stanley owned it. He moved to like Colorado, but he was trying to do that. He was trying to really build like a infrastructure for the scene, and I was there a lot. I watched so many comedians in and out, flying in and out, and I was just like, man, this is gonna be hard, like, because there's just not enough facilitation of comedians and entertainers coming in and out of the city for it to be stabilized, for it to be consistent. And that's where holding the line kind of falls off, because if the promoters aren't getting paid, if the event is not getting paid, then they can't have shows in the first place. Mm-hmm. And the problem is the comedians aren't big enough to sell out the shows using their social media yet. It's very hard, man. Like, it's very fucking.
And throwing a show is fucking expensive, man.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta fly these motherfuckers in. You gotta drive them around and shit. That's why they ask us to drive them around. You gotta drive them around and shit. You know what I mean? You know, feed them all types of shit, and they want that big ticket. So it's the business, you know, because it ain't because you don't think I'm funny.
Yeah.
You know, I just wish that the promoters actually knew about the comedy scene. A lot of the promoters don't know shit about the comedy scene. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, they flipping money.
Did you get a chance to check out the Netflix series Baby Reindeer?
Everybody keep talking about that shit. I gotta watch. You brought it up. I gotta watch this shit now.
Yeah, go watch it.
That's crazy.
There was that girl that the actual character, the female character they're portraying, has actually been coming out lately.
Straight?
Yeah, she's been coming out. She's saying like that character's not based on me. But then she went and did interviews and she's like, yeah, it is based on me, but there's lies in the story. But the whole Baby Reindeer is based on a comedian. Like, that guy was a comedian and he was upcoming in the scene, and he just went through so many trials and tribulations as he was trying to become a comic. And it was a lot of like sacrifice, personal sacrifice.
So that's a show about a comedian?
The Netflix series is actually about a comedian, yeah.
Oh, I need to watch it.
Yeah,
I like that.
Go check it out. But it's like the trials and tribulations of being a comedian. It just seems it seems so fucking difficult to become a successful comedian. It seems like to just financially provide for yourself and be consistent. Like, most comedians have jobs right now. You know,
I got a job.
Yeah, it's like you're not gonna just unless you blow, right? Do you think you can consistently make money as a comedian without having to work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like real, like
yeah, for sure.
Like provider money, like where you can
provider money. And you talking about not being known, like,
Well, like,
I seen Mike Larry. Like when I first started, Mike Larry was hustling his ass off. He was doing 2-3 shows, but he was tapped into that church scene.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They was paying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was booked 2-3 shows a week. 500, that's about 1,500, no taxes. So shit, I don't want to put his business out there, but I mean, he was like one of the. He used to say that shit. I'm the most booked comedian, but I mean, shit. I used to ride with him. You know, he was like my mentor when I first started and shit. So I used to ride with him, and we was doing shows. He'd lead one show, run to another show. He the one let me know you could do more than one show in one day.
Right.
I didn't know that shit. Get his money and shit, and lead. You know what I'm saying? You know, so it's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, it's possible. Like I feel like I could if I didn't have my job. You know what I'm saying? Especially after that run at the Punchline, because now all those comedians, and not just the headliners, they brought features. The features is really who you connect with. You know what I mean? The headliner's too busy and they got shit going on, but the features that come with them the motherfuckers that's connected seriously in their city, because them motherfuckers is traveling with DC Curry, or like they traveling with headliners, so they ain't traveling with them for no reason. No. They tapped into their city, so especially that run I did at the Punchline. I feel like if I quit my job, I could make. I mean, I probably would make I don't know. Shit, you don't know.
What was your best night overall as a comedian?
How much money?
Like as far as just like killing it, as far as it's a joke.
Ooh. The Aries Spears night. The Aries Spears night, because Aretha Franklin had died, right? And I was talking about her death and her funeral. I was doing this whole thing about her funeral, and then this young girl walked in, and she had her hair. I don't know why the fuck this young girl had her hair like this, but that shit was short, red, and pressed like Etta James. You know who Etta James is? Okay, well, you look her up and shit. But, that's like Aretha Franklin era and shit. And I was just, talking about it like, Etta James, at last. And I kept doing that shit. And the audience was just dying because she looked just like, as soon as I'm talking, she looked just like this woman walking in and shit. So the audience dying laughing, like hard fucking core. And I couldn't go on to the next joke because every time they looked at her, they'd start a whole new roar of laughing. Yeah. That's why Aries Spears couldn't do shit. Because she sat in the front row, and every time the rest of the audience looked at her, they just fucking start laughing and shit. And Aries was on stage trying to tell regular ass jokes, like, yeah, when I walked over here, and they just laughing in the middle of the setup, so he knew it wasn't his. So yeah, that night, one night a dude almost died. Motherfucker had a seizure.
Yeah.
From laughing. He went outside and shit. They got him together.
What'd you get him with?
I don't even know, because I freestyle a lot too. I get to rolling, man.
You like crowd work?
I do crowd work. You know what I'm saying? I do a lot of crowd work. Like I get to rolling, man. My shit is kind of like Jimi Hendrix and shit. Like, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he writes songs, but every time you see him, his shit is different. You know what I'm saying? Like, Hey Joe is not gonna be the same Hey Joe on the album when you see him. This motherfucker could be at the at the Montreal Music Festival, and that shit is a totally different fucking Hey Joe than on the album. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I am. That's why I say, I'm more organic with my shit. I have philosophies. So it's, instead of like jokes, my shit can be brought up over and over again, and it be good points. Like the fucking Ohio is Africa for white people. I gotta keep saying that shit.
So like for philosophies is like, so you're very integrated in your thought system.
Right.
Like you're very into it. Like what? Like
my ideologies and shit.
Yeah. Like you consider yourself like a philosopher?
Are you a philosopher?
Yeah. Are you a philosopher?
Yeah, I guess so. Cause shit, before comedy, I wanted to write books.
Yeah.
I still do, just about shit. I used to write essays and shit. I used to read books and then write the essays and shit, some nerd shit. I used to do that. So yeah, I got ideologies. I was a 5%er at one point. That's all the fuck, they do, is philosophize and
What's
shit.
What's a 5%er?
5%ers, it's a sect of Islam and shit, but they don't believe in a spiritual God. They believe you are God.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Because you can manifest, take life, a bunch of, you made in the image of God or whatever. The 5% are the poor righteous teachers. You got the 10%, those are the people that know the truth but won't spread the truth. I think those are the Masons. You got the 85% that don't know what the fuck is going on. They consider the dumb, deaf, and blind. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, and then when you come from like the base roots of humanity, it's easier to like look and be perceptive, right? And be like, I'm gonna make something off of this because it's so much integrated in human behavior, and how people act and shit like that. I think my favorite comedian, Dave Chappelle, all-time favorite comedian, right. Easily.
I love the way he write jokes.
I do too. I feel like he's becoming more. He's getting back into the comedy aspect of things, but there was a point where I was watching him for what it's worth, Killing Him Softly. I'm watching all of his early stand-up, the Def Jam stuff, and then like lately I've been going to his shows and seeing he's more serious, like more political for sure now.
So comedy is like kung fu. You know what I mean? When you first start kung fu, you trying to learn, you're learning the kicks and shit. You know what I mean? Then you fucking people up, but you thinking kick, chop, punch, duck, shit like that. Then you get to a level where the shit is unconscious and you totally comfortable to where now you doing shit like Bruce Lee say, like water. Yeah. You know what I mean? You might do a move that don't even look like a striking move, but stop him at the last minute. Or you look like you're moving this way, stop him at the last minute. Some shit like that where it looks like you're not doing karate, right?
Yeah.
Or you're not focused on karate, like the Drunken Master and shit. How he was acting drunk, but you fucking, you know what I'm saying? Because he had reached that level. That's where Dave is. He at the level to where he's so fucking comfortable, he can kick it, and people just want to hear his thoughts.
That's true, but it also sounds damaged though. I love him. I love Dave Chappelle, his favorite comedian of all time. But it sounds like what the industry did to him made him get too serious at one point. And I think he's coming back. Like the Sticks and Stones tape dropped was great.
I see what you're saying.
But like he got so political to the point where it's almost like an agenda now to preach something versus be as funny as he used to be. And the thing is, back in the day when he used to tell jokes, he used to be controversial, relevant, and also like it used to make a lot of sense. But now it's almost like I'm fucking pissed. Like now Dave Chappelle's coming out like I'm fucking pissed.
Because he's comfortable.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah, because anytime you take 15 minutes to hit a punchline, you fucking comfortable.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like before he was trying to let you know I'm Dave Chappelle with the Killing Him. Like I say, them first two Killing Him, so that's that shit.
That's that shit.
But he had to let you know he was that motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now it's like you could tell his whole thing is like they already, he goated.
Yeah.
So
how'd you feel about Detroit booing him?
I was there. They didn't boo him.
What happened?
I was fucking there, dog. And I defend this shit all the time. This is what happened. This is his first time back out, right? And he had two sets of fans. He had the diehard Dave Chappelle fans that was a fan of him being a comedian. Then you had the Chappelle Show fans, right? Half of that bitch was Chappelle Show fans. The other half was fucking Dave Chappelle actual fans. He telling jokes and kicking it, doing the shit he doing now, just kicking it and shit, whatever. And the Chappelle Show fans wanted him to say,
I'm Rick James,
bitch, and all of that shit. And he wasn't doing it. He didn't do nothing from the Chappelle Show. So he kicking it. I actually thought it was dope because he made a whole stadium. He turned it into like some intimate comedy club shit. So he started doing question and answers.
Oh.
Right? In the audience. And he was hitting every fucking body. I'm talking about if you was all the way up there, you up there. Like, that shit was crazy. He was hitting everybody. And motherfuckers was really into it, but half of the audience was like, yo, fuck them questions. So they was like, I'm Rick James. That's what they was yelling. I'm Rick James, bitch. I'm Rick James, bitch. Then they started saying, then they started trying to boo and shit, like, boo. But that shit didn't last long because the rest of the audience overclapped the shit and cheered it and cheered the little boo away. But I think he might have ran with I got booed in Detroit for some clickbait or some shit.
Well, it's easier for the media to clip that out and just be like, yo, look what happened to Chappelle.
Yeah, right. No, it wasn't like that. They tried it. You know what I'm saying? But he actually went over. Like, the story wasn't even the boo part. The story was the fact that the employees walked out on the show because he overdid his time. And they was like, yo, you got to come off the stage. And he was like, yo, fuck that. We'll pay him. And the fucking employee, like all the ushers and shit, like basically left. Like, because I guess the people was like, we not paying you overtime.
Wow, that's fucking...
So that's the story.
That changes literally everything.
Yeah.
Anybody ever said that? I haven't heard anybody talk about what happened that night.
No, they don't. They just leave it as is. And I look at Dave like, why do you want people to think you got booed? Like, you know what I'm saying? And that make Detroit people look like we don't know how to appreciate that shit. That is not what happened, man. Yeah. That boo lasted for Man, that boot lasted for this much, and then the rest of the fucking.
That sucks because I seen his stand-ups after he came back to Detroit
and he talked
again.
about that shit.
When he came back to Detroit again, he talked about it. He didn't make a big deal about it, but he did point it out, and I was like, damn, it's fucked up. We did that to you. But you know, it is cool to hear the kind of the back
because what it was, he was a little tipsy.
No.
So he did his first 15 minutes of his jokes, and he said, "Fuck that shit, I'm going off the cuff. It's the last show. I'm feeling good." You know what I'm saying? So he's a little tipsy.
Yeah.
So
Nick Swartzen just had something like that too. Nick Swartzen was just on. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Nick Swartzen's like, he was in Grandma's Boy. But anyways,
yeah,
he was on stage and he was just like standing there. Like,
how you know about Grandma's Boy?
Why not?
Because I found out about that goddamn movie through a bootleg DVD.
Really?
Grandma's Boy?
Yeah.
he was like work for the video game people and shit.
Yeah.
Dude, I found that shit like up under a stack of bootleg DVDs and shit.
One of the greatest movies
One of the greatest fucking movies ever.
Hell
yeah, no doubt.
Detroit had its own run with comedy movies too. Like Buffed Up was like one of the breakouts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It kind of dove into the Detroit culture a little bit. When you do talk about Detroit culture on stage, what's some of the things that you kind of point out? Because right now if you go on social media, every Detroit page talks about the same damn things every single day. Buffs, the girls, getting money.
No, I talk about regentrification and not giving money to white bums. Because like, how the fuck is you a bum and you white? You just got here 2 years ago. Are you a bum already? Like, we just regentrified. You came here as a bum? Like, you ain't even trying, man. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, like, what happened to all the other bums I grew up with? Like, they done regentrified. We got white bums on Finkel and shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I talk about that type of shit. Like, you know, stuff that's going on. You know, in my 20s, I didn't watch a lot of TV. I didn't really watch no TV. Like, Obama's first term, I didn't even see. Some shit like that. So, you know, it was just like the world and shit like that. You know, I didn't have my first kid. Well, my only kid. I didn't have my daughter until I was 33. So, you know, with that, I'm just, I guess, not affected by television and shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. You know, I'm coming from, you know, my shit coming from, you know, something different, I guess.
Yeah. There's like the easy go-tos, right? But your mindset's not really there. Your mindset's more. It's what a comedian's supposed to be. It's supposed to be everything and being able to touch on where you're from too at the same time, because that's what adds the flavor to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? A lot of comedians come out now just talking about their parents and mimicking and accents of their parents and you know the Asian kind of thing, or if you're Arabic,
hacky,
type stuff like where it's just gimmicky type stuff and
a lot of New Yorkers do the Jamaican shit.
Is that what they're doing now? Is that what they're on?
They do the Jamaican, Puerto Rican shit. Like, Jamaicans or whatever, Puerto Ricans, you know, talk like this type shit.
You got you're doing a show tonight, right? Or you're hosting tonight?
I'm at Baker's Keyboard Lounge, the world famous Baker's Keyboard Lounge. The house that Kool-Aid built. It's a pleasure to host it after him. I just found out recently that Red Fox used to host down there.
Wow.
Like, he used to have I don't know if it was necessarily a straight comedy night, but he used to host down there, you know, probably the jazz and shit, you know, so it's like Red Fox had a residency in that bitch, so that's crazy. It's the oldest jazz club in the world.
Cool.
You know what I mean? So it's pretty dope. During my show, I got people stopping in from New Zealand, motherfuckers stop in from Malaysia. When last time these people came from Sweden?
Damn.
People came from Sweden, you know, just to see that place. So I got all, you know, you never know what type of people gonna pop in, and you know,
That's very cool, man. I'm getting hip to you, man. I the social media thing that throw me off, like it getting deleted and stuff, especially hearing your name so apparently and everything. I'm
about to get it back popping, though.
Oh yeah, we're gonna make it happen. I think that's part of what I want to do. Sometimes I realize like this is a hip hop podcast, but in my nature, I'm so much on the comedian end. Sometimes I'm almost tripped out. I'm like, man, why the fuck don't I have comedians on this motherfucker?
So
like,
I actually watch your shit.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Because I'll be at work. I listen to, it's a few podcasts I listen to at the job, you know what I'm saying? You one of them. And I didn't look at your podcast as a hip hop podcast. I looked at it as a Detroit culture type podcast, like a Detroit entertaining culture type podcast. I don't know if you know that's how your shit came off, but that's how it kind of come off, because you had all types, but you had movie people on there.
That's true. But I feel like I relate to comedians the most because I've been so engraved in comedy since Comedy Central Presents was doing their shit. Like that's when I kind of first started getting hit, that fan and shit like that. But it's good to have comedians on. I want to get you back on too, man. I feel like it was a good introduction.
Yeah.
Me and you meeting each other and talking, but I also want to get you back on again so we can break.
We just kicking about shit.
Yeah, we'll break loose. But a very good.
I'll be a little boosie.
Yeah, for sure. Let's make it happen. Consistency, man. Just keep having you back on. Faygo Red was in the building, man. Appreciate you being a part of this. Go check him out.
Follow me.
Yeah, follow him. Faygo Red
on 7mile.Faygo.
Yeah.
On Instagram. 7mile.Faygo on Instagram.
We're at Parallel Sound Studio, Hello Visual Shootings Productions. We're out. Peace. Bye.